And thinking of the chemistry and technology, ultimately, how efficient do you think EVs will become in terms of that kilowatts per hour?
So batteries are already pretty efficient. They're less efficient if you charge them really quick, because if you're doing super high power charging, then more energy is dissipated as heat, and therefore it's just lost. But you compare that to an internal combustion engine where most of that energy is lost as heat and it doesn't actually do anything useful. It's still pretty good. But a battery is typically sort of what 90-ish% efficient. And when you factor in motors, drag resistance, and all of this, basically by the time you've taken 100 kilowatts of renewable energy and fed it through the grid into the battery and out through the car as it's driving along at 60 miles an hour, you're still getting about 70 kilowatt hours of that electricity back in terms of useful motion. So about 70% efficient all round in comparison to, down towards 20% for an internal combustion engine if you were to be using synthetic fuel made from renewable energy. So it's a super efficient thing already. But if we move away from SUVification, which has been destroying the efficiency of vehicles in general, not just electric vehicles, if you look at the Nissan Leaf when it launched in 2011, that was between 3.5 and 4 miles per kilowatt hour efficiency. And then these SUVs that are available today, most of them struggle to do 3 miles per kilowatt hour. And that adds up. That's a definite price difference. When you look at Hyundai Ioniq, the original Ioniq, 28 kilowatt hour, not the big Ioniq 5, basically lowered SUV that it is today. That was a sensibly sized hatchback and it could do 5 miles per kilowatt hour. Versus my Nissan Leaf, before electricity prices went doolally, I could have saved over triple figures, hundreds of pounds a year on my electricity bill if I switched from my Leaf to an Ioniq 5. That's how efficient they are just by going that kind of extra distance. But again, as we look at lightweighting, if we look at aluminium chassis, or if we look at, for example, what the BMW i3 did, which was a carbon fiber chassis, and if you look at the reduced coefficient, drag coefficient, so you're improving the aerodynamics, and we are seeing improvements in battery technology as well. As I said, silicon anodes will help to improve fast charging and mean that they'll be more efficient because they're not dissipating as much heat. So more of that energy gets stored usefully in the battery rather than just dissipated. And motors as well, we're seeing improvements in the efficiency of motors too. Permanent magnet motors tend to be more efficient than AC induction motors, but AC induction motors don't use rare earth metals. So they're actually quite good from an ethical perspective. But what does this all add up to? If we really wanted to, a typical hatchback, like a golf-sized hatchback EV, if you really want to, you could make that do 5 miles per kilowatt hour. And Hyundai's already proven that. Tesla has already proven that with the Model 3. It's very efficient too. But with increased lightweighting, if we look at the likes of the Mercedes EQXX, it managed to do somewhere in the region of 620 miles on a single charge of its 100 kilowatt hour battery pack. But that was, crazy levels of prototype lightweighting and so on. But Mercedes claims that they're going to be applying a lot of those learnings to their EVs that you'll be able to buy. So genuinely, 5 to 6 miles per kilowatt hour shouldn't be insurmountable if manufacturers really want to do this. And it's a case of whether they really want to or whether they just want to be lazy and keep making heavy steel chassis for big SUVs that have the aerodynamics of a brick. It's all going to come down to consumer preference, and it's going to come down to a bit of regulation there as well.